Doctor's warning: before you add that wild mushroom to your meal, read this first. I've seen too many lives lost or shattered over something that seemed so harmless: a wild mushroom plucked from the forest floor. What was once a leisurely walk in the woods or a spontaneous culinary adventure becomes a nightmare in the blink of an eye. But as a medical doctor, I can tell you with certainty, the difference between a life-saving meal and a life-ending mistake can be microscopic when it comes to wild mushrooms. And unfortunately, there are thousands of others just like you who don't realize the grave dangers lurking in their very meal. The silent threat in your backyard. You might believe that wild mushrooms are a healthy, natural source of nutrition, a beautiful gift from nature. You may think, how dangerous can a mushroom really be? They grow everywhere, even in my own backyard. That's exactly what most people think, before they become one of the many victims of mushroom poisoning. Let me take you inside my world, the emergency room, where I've witnessed the devastating effects of wild mushrooms on unsuspecting circums. Amanita phalloides, the infamous death cap mushroom, has claimed more lives than I care to count. It's not a myth, it's not folklore, it's very real. The deceptive nature of Amanita phalloides. At first glance, Amanita phalloides doesn't look dangerous. In fact, it looks incredibly ordinary. A typical white mushroom with a greenish or yellowish cap, white gills beneath, and a stem that's thick and smooth. To the untrained eye, it could easily be mistaken for the common mushroom or other edible varieties that grace your dinner table. But that is the terrifying part. Looks can be deceiving. The toxins in these mushrooms, amatoxins, don't show their deadly effects immediately. That's the part that confuses so many people. A victim might think they're in the clear for hours. They might even be feeling fine, thinking it was just a minor stomach upset. But what they don't know is that the toxins are already hard at work, shutting down their liver and kidneys with deadly precision. How it works: the toxin's silent attack. Once consumed, amatoxins are rapidly absorbed into the bloodstream. The toxin starts attacking the liver, a vital organ that processes chemicals, detoxifies the body, and aids in digestion. Within hours, the liver begins to break down, unable to regenerate, unable to filter toxins from the bloodstream. This causes jaundice, a yellowing of the skin and eyes, one of the most noticeable signs that the liver is in grave danger. But it doesn't stop there. Amatoxins also target kidneys, leading to renal failure. The damage is profound, and once the kidneys begin to shut down, the patient's prognosis becomes grim. To make matters worse, there is no antidote for amatoxin poisoning. The truth is, when it comes to the death cap, time is everything. By the time symptoms appear, it is often already too late to save the victim. Victims might experience violent vomiting, abdominal pain, and severe dehydration. They may feel weak, fatigued, or disoriented, thinking it's just food poisoning, but the symptoms are deceptive. They mask the fact that the liver is already in the process of dying. The first 24 to 48 hours are critical, and the longer a victim waits to seek medical help, the lower their chances of survival become. The symptoms you must never ignore. If you or someone you love consumes wild mushrooms and starts to experience the following symptoms, don't wait, get medical attention immediately. Nausea, a feeling of sickness that doesn't go away even after vomiting. Vomiting, often violent and uncontrollable, lasting for hours. Diarrhea, severe, sometimes bloody, and persistent. Abdominal pain, deep, cramping, and intense. Dehydration, extreme thirst, dry mouth, dizziness, and fainting. Yellowing of the skin and eyes. Fatigue, lethargy, and weakness that seems disproportionate to the illness. Confusion, disorientation, or delirium, often accompanied by a rapid heart rate. Real-life stories of mushroom poisoning. Let me share with you a case that haunts me to this day. It was a late summer evening and a family of 4 came into the ER. The mother, father, and their 2 young children had been out for a hike. The children, aged 10 and 12, had gathered wild mushrooms from the forest. They were excited to show their mother what they had found. The mushrooms looked just like the ones they had eaten before in other foraging trips. That night, they cooked the mushrooms in a hearty stew, thinking it was a healthy meal. But soon after dinner, the children started complaining of stomach cramps. The mother thought it was just the result of overeating. Then came the vomiting. Violent, relentless, the kind you'd expect from food poisoning. By the time they arrived at the ER, the parents were showing signs of extreme fatigue while the children's skin had turned yellow. The diagnosis was clear: death cap mushroom poisoning. We admitted them all, hoping we could save them, but despite hours of aggressive treatment, including IV fluids and medications to slow the toxins' progress, the children's livers began to fail. By the next morning, they were both unconscious, their kidneys shutting down. They were both placed on dialysis, and a desperate search for liver transplants was underway. But one of the children, a girl named Lily, didn't make it. She died within 48 hours. The parents, though, surviving, would never recover from the emotional toll. Psychological aspects. Why people take the risk. There's a psychological trap that we all fall into. We think that if something is natural, it must be safe. That's how we've been conditioned. Nature is beautiful. Nature is kind. But nature is also dangerous. The wild mushroom is a master of deception. Foraging for mushrooms can seem like a fun, wholesome activity, a way to connect with the earth, gather food, and even impress your friends with your wild culinary skills. But when you do it without proper training, the stakes are high. Some people argue that they've eaten wild mushrooms for years without problems. They say things like, "I know what I'm doing. I've seen people foraging for mushrooms before." But the truth is, even experienced foragers, mistaking a death cap for a safe variety can happen to anyone. It's not the person who's careless, it's nature that's playing a cruel trick. The global impact, why this danger is far too common. I'm not exaggerating when I say that Amanita phalloides is the leading cause of mushroom poisoning deaths worldwide. In countries like Germany, Australia, and the United States, where mushroom foraging is popular, the number of poisonings is on the rise. I remember one year in particular when we saw a sharp uptick in poisoning cases during the fall months. It wasn't a coincidence. The death cap grows most prolifically in the late summer and fall, especially in areas with oak and pine trees. This is when people, especially amateur foragers, are out looking for mushrooms. And every year the number of fatalities grows. The victims, families, couples, children, all taking a risk they thought was safe. The ultimate truth: prevention is the only cure. As a doctor, I want you to understand one thing: prevention is the only cure. Once you've eaten a death cap, once that toxin enters your system, there's very little we can do. So I'm asking you, do not eat wild mushrooms unless you are 100% certain of their safety. If you want mushrooms, buy them from reputable sources. Don't play with your life. Don't risk your health, your safety, or your family's well-being. Learn to identify mushrooms correctly and never eat anything that's not clearly safe. If you're in doubt, throw it out. Trust me, the risk of a single bad mushroom is far greater than the joy of a wild foraging trip. Conclusion: let your meal nourish you, not destroy you. As a doctor, it's my responsibility to protect life. I see far too many patients suffer, too many families destroyed by the tragic effects of mushroom poisoning. But you don't have to be one of those statistics. Take control of your own safety. Take control of what you eat. Don't gamble with your life. Let your meals nourish you. Let them provide health and energy, not harm and grief. Nature can be beautiful, but it can also be deadly. Be cautious, be smart, and most importantly, be safe.